so much for the opportunity that you've given me to share the work that you've placed on my heart. And I just ask that you'll help me to be a true representative of you and to reflect you. And please bring back things to my remembrance and help me to share the things that that you want me to share, and help me not to beat up myself afterwards like, oh man, I should have said that. And I just thank you for how you're going to lead and direct us. And in Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Okay, so that river, in the video I shared this morning, John talked about it, the Tonasap Lake. And that's one of the few, you see that line going across? Yeah? On the other side is the Mekong, which come all the way from China, go down into Vietnam to the river, to the ocean. And in the rainy season, okay, so in regular season, the water flows from the lake into the river, but when rainy season comes, the water flows backwards. And you can actually see the one going this way and the other one going the opposite direction. So it's one of the few rivers in the world, or waters in the world, where the water flows in the opposite direction. Okay, who's never heard of the 1040 window? Okay, good. Everybody's heard of it. Oh, okay. I didn't know anything about the 1040 window until 2018. And so the 1040 window is pretty much when you look at the globe or the map, anywhere between 10 degrees latitude and 40 degrees. So that's the 1040 window. And so in this region here, that's the darkest part of the world. In this area, you have the Muslims, you have Hindus, and you have Buddhists. 42% of the world's population lives in this area, which total to about 3.5 or 3.9 billion people that live here in complete darkness. Last year, I had the opportunity to teach, just a second, Pastor, to teach English in Malaysia for 10 weeks. And all my the exception of one, that was Orthodox Christian. Everyone else was Muslim. And, you know, I'll say this, like, I didn't realize, those of us who know about 9/11, I didn't realize how brainwashed we were until last year. I was sitting in the class and I was just having a regular discussion, just a regular, teacher-student. And one of them said, oh, you just killed them. And I remember I got so terrified, like, oh my goodness, I'm gonna die. Like, literally. And I'm like, if you had said it or one of my friends had said it, I wouldn't think anything of it. I can't remember the context of the conversation, right? But I know that if somebody who I know, or if it was somebody different that said it, I wouldn't have thought that. But because they were Muslim, all I thought of was, oh, they're gonna kill us all. You know what I mean? And so it really stopped me in my tracks to really think about how oftentimes we hear something so often that we don't even realize that our opinions have changed. Absolutely. Is that better? Okay, sorry. Thank you. And so as I was teaching these young people, I would look in I end up looking on the map because I had from Sudan, Somalia, Yemen, Palestine. I had like 7 or 8 different countries represented in there. And when I look at those countries, most of them were 99% Muslims. 99. And so every time I come home, my heart like literally rips in pieces because I'm here and everybody say Jesus is coming soon. And I'm looking over there and I'm like, the gospel has not reached. And nobody's telling them. So how will they know? And so we want Jesus to come, and we should want him to come, but we can't want him to come and expect to be exempted from the work that he's given us to do. You remember what you were going to say, Pastor? Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. Cambodia, they are Buddhist, but they're 100% animist. The Buddhists are. Oh, 100%. So there's a lot of the spirit houses that they have at their home. They're always burning incense. You know, yes, they're offering, but on the other hand, it's keeping the spirits away. So when a child is born, they have a red string around the wrist, the neck, the ankle. Absolutely. And you know how from the spirits. And then a lot of houses will even go as far as having what's that thing we put a scarecrow at the very front of their house to keep away the evil spirits. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't know. But then they have so many gods. I remember I was in a cab last year, and the guy was like, "Yeah, well, we have three gods that split off into like 3 million, so we can worship anything at any time in Hinduism." Yeah, so they have many, 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 many gods. Uh huh. I think I think I think Muslim is bigger than Hindu. Because if you think of Hindu, it's normally located, it's centralized mainly in India. But then when you look at Muslims, North Africa, the whole of the Middle East, that's all Muslims. Yes, ma'am. Mm, mm, yes. And so that's the 1040 window. And if you see, I'm on this side, so I'm in Southeast Asia. Cambodia, you see Thailand, and then Vietnam is off in the water, but you know, right there, close to Malaysia and Indonesia. So I'm a 2 hour flight from Malaysia. It was a good experience. I think this was the video I played this morning. Yes. Okay, I'll play the next one. I think I have to click it twice. That's the one. I thought I showed both of them.
Well, right now we're in Cambodia.
Yeah, we saw both of them, right? Okay. So that's what the market looks like. And you know what blows my mind when I go to the market? You don't hear a salmonella poisoning, you know what I mean? Or botulism. And the meat will be out like that all day. And you see how she had her face covered? Like, because I'm a foreigner, they thought I had COVID. And so people would literally, and especially in the beginning, would run from us. Some of them almost run in vehicles, running from us. It was pretty hard during that time. I realized that during that time that we have no idea what lockdown was. Because when I came back in 2020, New York was ground zero. Well, supposedly. And we just came right in. Nobody asked any questions. Going into Cambodia when we went back, and I won't talk much about it. We were escorted off the bus. No, yeah, off the plane. Going through not security. Went for the visa. Then we had our money that we had to turn in for quarantine, and then we went through another checkpoint, and then we got our luggage, and then we got tested for COVID in the nose and down the throat. And then from there, we were escorted to a bus of their choosing that took us to a hotel of their choosing, and we stayed in there for 2 weeks. The only time you opened your door was when they came to give you food. They knocked, you open the door, the food is there, you never really see who dropped the food off. And you pick it up and you close the door, and that's it. And that's how we lived for 2 weeks. Let's just say Khmer food is not my kids' favorite food at all. And it was expensive because normally the food is not expensive there. So like one day I took 8 of my students out to eat. And we were traveling all day, and so they were really hungry, and so they were like, teacher, can we have breakfast and lunch at the same time? I was like, sure, go ahead. And so they all had 2 meals plus a drink, and we paid $35. In quarantine, I was paying $10 a meal. Yeah. And then for one of the meals, I kid you not, it was 2 slices of bread, and each bread had 1 raisin and then something that looked like gravy slapped onto the end of it, and a box of milk, and a thing of ketchup. I'm still trying to figure out how the ketchup fit in there, but we don't ask questions, you know? What's that? Frogs. You know, I like to show this picture because a lot of times we see the picture and the first response is, ew, that's gross, right? And it really is, but it's shame on us because they're still eating this because we failed to tell them that they shouldn't be eating it. So they're eating it from ignorance. You see what I'm saying? Frogs. Yeah. And they eat frogs and they eat snakes. I remember one day I was in the market, and as I was walking, I looked and they have the regular snakes that they have in containers, and then they have the venomous snake that brings in high money that they have in a bag that's tied up. And so I'm walking, and I looked, and I was like, that's a snake. And then the guy said, do you want it? And I was like, no. And I jumped so high, and the whole people in that section of the market was laughing at me. But that's okay. I did not mind them laughing at me. Yeah, I remember the first time in my little town when I went to the market. You know that saying in Revelation when it says there was silence in heaven for half an hour? I experienced that at the market. They were talking, and my husband and I, we walked in, and everybody stopped and stared. They've never seen a foreigner, and they've never seen a black person, and they just looked. And after a few minutes, they started pointing, laughing, and talking. And you know, you don't need to speak the language to know that they were talking and laughing at you. You know what I mean? Because, you know, Cambodia or Asia was not my option. Not for a second. It wasn't even in my mind. I wanted to go to a country where I fit in. You know, I wanted to go to Africa or Papua New Guinea. That was my dream, Papua New Guinea. And God sent me to a place where I stand out in every sense of the word, you know. But I realized that God sends us where He needs us and not necessarily where we want to go. And this is a motorbike. And this is common, and sometimes you see them, it's piled so high, and you wonder how it's not toppling over. And one of the things over there too, like if you have a vehicle, it's almost illegal to pull a trailer, but the motorbike can pull a trailer. You don't ask questions, you just keep moving, you know. This is a pagoda. This is their temple. It's called a pagoda. And this is where they go and they worship. And you know, one of the things I remember as I walk around and I look at these things, it's actually scary, the images that they have. You know, they have snakes with the teeth and the horns. And then when you look at the elephants and you look at the lions that they have, it's really scary looking. And I'm just so grateful that we have a God that's not scary. You know, it made me really appreciate God more. Yes? It's Buddhist. Cambodia is Buddhist. Southeast Asia is Buddhist / well, they're animists / Buddhist, but they're Buddhist on the surface. Yes, sir. It ended in December, so as of now, there's nothing. So it started June, and we thought it was bad, but when they came back in December, around the 7th or 8th of December, they started dropping bombs. They had fighter jets, and Cambodia is not equipped like that to fight at all. And so it was pretty bad. Quite a few lives were lost. And so for now, everything is quiet, and we just pray that it stays that way. So this was the first time we were going. The girls, two of them are my daughters, and then the other two came with us, and they learned how to drive motorcycle because that's the best way to get around. Except me, I'm not riding on one. Well, I have no desire, none whatsoever. See, the thing over there is, for anything under 120 cc's, you don't need a license, and they drive. And the thing is, if you have a vehicle and you hit them, you're in the wrong. And if they hit you, you're still in the wrong. Because you have money, and so they're going to come after you. And then you get skin tax because you're a foreigner. So, yes. Huh? Say that one more time. No, no, it's scary. Like, no, absolutely. I don't even want to drive over there, much less ride a motorcycle. This was during COVID. We were staying close to a hospital. They had COVID, and we were just cooking food. This is giving the kids in the slum food. This is another slum picture. That's in the slum. So they live right there on the train track. Some of the houses are made from cardboard. And some of the kids, I can't zoom in. You see, if you look at this little girl, her hair looks light. Can you see that? That's malnutrition. When they're that malnourished, their hair changes color. Mm-hmm. Yes. It's right next, right next to it. Elisa rode the train one time. She came back and she was like, many times I thought I wasn't gonna make it because the thing shook so much. And it was an 8-hour drive from the capital to Battambang. She wasn't by herself. All the students rode on it because they've never ridden on a train before. And so she was like, nope, I could do without that. This is in my village. These are most of the kids in the village. So what happened is when we first got there, y'all don't do it at this church, but when you go to a typical Adventist church and you're there for the first time and you get that glare when you enter the church, everybody look at you like, who is that? But nobody's talking. You might not know about it because you don't go. You guys are not like that. So as I'm going through the village, it almost felt like I was driving through an Adventist town. People just staring like, why are you here? Anyways, so they would just stare at us, and it just like you feel so uncomfortable, so uncomfortable. And so one day we're like, oh, let's start telling them hello. And so we started telling them hello. Every time we passed, we'd say hello, and then after a while, they start telling us hello. And it was my highlight every day to have them tell me hello, because that was the only connection I had outside my family. And it just felt so, really good. Like, it just literally melted my heart. And it was like some of the kids, they were babies, and they're nursing, and they hear our truck, and they pop their head off, hello, and they right back. It was like the best thing ever. I was just like, oh. And so for me, it was like I wanted to do something for them. And it was. Don't judge us. It was our winter, and winter for us get to about 61, and it's very cold. That's why this winter is my first winter in many years, and I literally died. I already looked at next week. It's gonna be cold, and I'm not looking forward to it. But anyways, I wanted to do something for them, so I got them blankets, and I remember I got enough blankets. The blankets came out to like $3 each. And so we were able to give every child a blanket, and we had extra blankets. And then the old ladies came, and they were like, oh, we need blankets too. And so we gave them blankets. And you know what? That broke a lot of ice. A lot of ice. That even though I don't speak the language, even though I don't understand them and they don't understand me, I don't get the death glare anymore. And even though I've been gone from there for a couple years, whenever I go back, they stop what they're doing and they smile at me, or they'll stare at me, but it's not that like, why are you here? Who are you? And so, amen. So blanket broke down barrier. Hello, broke down barriers, right? And so sometimes it just makes you see that it's not stuff. So this is okay, so on Facebook, I'm part of this group called Snakes of Cambodia. And I believe that we should be educated. And so when they post a picture, I only look if the snake is venomous or not. If it's not venomous, I couldn't care less what it looks like. But if it's venomous, I need to know the details. So if I see that thing, I know what it is, right? And so I saw this picture. I saw a picture on there, and this is the green pit viper, but it's white-lipped. And I remember that afternoon I went to take a shower, and I opened the door because at the time we didn't have running water, so we had these big. And you'll see a picture. And I'm going to get water, and I saw the thing coiled up like this, and I was like, so I started screaming for my husband. I screamed so hard, like the next 2 weeks my throat hurt. And then I was mad at him because he was moving so slow to come. This is like a 911 emergency, you know? And he just like, and he like almost didn't even want to kill the thing. I'm like, why are you saving it? Like, it must die. And I remember I just had this complete meltdown. I was bawling like, I don't want this anymore. I am going home. This is it. And in the middle of that, one of my students texted me and she's like, teacher, I'm running a fever and I need help. Okay, and all of a sudden all my tears are gone and I'm telling my husband what to do to get me the onions I can bring over there. And he's like, I'm coming with you. No, I can do it by myself. That in itself is a miracle, you know, because him and I would be walking on my head as always, because I'm looking for snakes, you know. And he was like, hey, did you see that? I was like, see what? And he's like, that thing over there. I was like, no. He's like, how could you miss it? I was like, oh, I was looking if there was any snakes coming, you know. I'm vigilant looking for snakes. So it's night, and I decide to go by myself. And, you know, God kept me. And it's like probably a quarter of a mile walk between me and them. Walked over there, gave her the stuff, helped her, and then walked back. And I think that's probably one of the few times that my head wasn't down. So in the white container, that's what it actually looks like. And then the left is after it attempted whatever it was trying to do. Yes. And then this one is a spitting cobra. And this one was in the village. They had just harvested the rice, and they still had the stuff there. And they saw this. You know what they used to kill it? They have a stick like a broom with a nail on the tip, and they poke it in the head. But that was Sunday dinner. And then they cut off the head, and they'll put the head in alcohol, let it sit for a year, and then they enjoy it the next year. I'm telling you, we have a work to do to help these people. And then this one, this is the deadliest snake in Asia. Yeah, this is the Malayan crate. They call it the two-step crate. Two-step snake. Two-step snake. Oh, yes. And you know who killed them? My friends from America sent their 2 sons to Thailand who came to visit me in Cambodia who decided to kill the snake. And one of them almost got bit by the snake. I'm like, why would I tell your mom? You know? Ethan and Nehemiah. I'm telling you, like, it was so bad. It was so bad. Anyways, and God protected me because we had just finished having worship. I went home, and like less than 5 minutes, those came under where we were sitting for worship.
This guy
okay,
has
this is
never
a video.
Frustrated before. He's about to, though.
Hello, friends. In this season of Mission Viewfinder, we are visiting Khmer country. Why don't you join us? Our main purpose is to film 3 mission projects, and we'll also meet butterflies, a baby crocodile, and a lot of mud.
That's my driveway.
Okay, so get this. We're in Cambodia, staying with a family from America, but we get Jamaican food for breakfast.
Get him this both, and then careful, because he's just breaking down the thing so it doesn't hurt him. His manly. See? What?
1, 2, 3.
Taste it again, but... This guy has never had fresh durian before. He's about to, though. Yay!
That's not bad.
This is one of the good ones. It's not too stinky.
Maybe because we're all
You gonna eat it?
sure I can taste it. That's a little piece. Well,
It is a little piece. Just try it. It's good.
Yeah, I'll tell you afterwards.
It doesn't taste bad. It's the mushiness.
I was 14 when we first came here, and we've been here for about 2 years.
What was it like for you when your parents were like, we're going to Cambodia?
I didn't want to come because me and Danielle have been on like Spanish countries on mission trips and stuff before, so I wanted to go somewhere over there. Asia was never a part of the whole equation of places we'd want to go. The very first time we came here was 2020, and we had some friends with us that we had kind of just met. And that was fine because I had them with me, even though sometimes I was sad because I missed home, but I knew we were going back. We had an end date in sight. So I think coming back last year was hard for me because I knew Danielle was gonna leave eventually. And I didn't know how long I was gonna be here, and I'm stuck with my parents kind of stuff, you know, and I didn't know where anything was gonna go. And I'm a bit of an introvert, and I'm really shy, and all kinds of stuff. So I could say that was a big struggle for me, but for a while I would like separate myself kind of from everybody, especially after Danielle left, and nobody was really here yet. So then when the girls came here, I still kind of separated myself, but then my mom would tell one of the girls especially to go and still talk to me, and that I'm just shy, but it's not that I don't like them. And after that, they start pulling me out my shell and making me hang out with them, which I really enjoy, and I can say that it's helped me a lot, knowing that I have all these amazing big sisters, even though my big sister's at home, and it just made me feel like I have a bigger family here. And I can say that I've seen God help me to appreciate the people I've met here and appreciate being here a lot more than I did when I first came. I feel like there's a purpose that he has me here for, whether it's for me or for the people here or for all of us together, you know, to help me not be so dependent and be more, not so dependent on people, but more dependent on him, because people leave in your life and people come and go and all those things, and emotionally it can hurt and be draining, so it helps to lean more on God. But I'm here because God wants me to be here, and somehow, in some way, when I'm older, maybe not today or this year or right now, I'll figure out and he'll show me just how much of this being here in Cambodia has had an impact on my life.
When you eat durian for breakfast and then you walk through mud and it becomes incredibly funny. That's what it looks like when 4 durian eaters try to do an interview. We take a long time to get ready and we do a lot of laughing. had an awesome day today. We got all of the interviews done. Well, the 3 with the missionaries that are here. So we're very thankful for that. And yeah, we've still got quite a bit of filming to do, editing to do in the next few days, but the interviews are done.
So durian, it stinks. It stinks really bad. I'm not even gonna lie. I wouldn't even lie. Like, when I bite and I bring it in the vehicle, it smells like rotten onions. It smells like rotten onions. But let me tell you, it's the best fruit ever. It does not taste like it smells. If you can get beyond the smell, you're good. And so I was prejudiced towards it, like, take that nasty thing away from me. And I don't know, one day I got up, I'm like, you know what, I want to give it a fair try. And I ate that thing, and I thought I went into diabetic coma. It was so good. Anyways, it was so good. 1 second, let me go ahead. Okay, let me answer that. So we don't wear shoes over there because every building you go into, you have to take off your shoes. And so we wear slides and slippers. Prefer not to wear flip-flops during rainy season. But even when we go to church, we take off our shoes. So you'll see hundreds of shoes outside, and we go inside barefooted. But I normally wear socks. But yeah. You had your hand in the... You had a question? Oh, you're going to ask? Okay, Pastor? No, like, as you're eating it, you're not smelling that thing, but when it's enclosed in that area, like we're traveling, my daughter would get mad at me, both her and my husband would get mad at me, and so they were like, why don't you put it in the back of the truck? I was like, because I want it close to me. I was being selfish, but anyways, yes, it's really good, and I'm hoping that I can make it back over there in time to at least have one piece this season. Okay, so that's my bathroom, and those are the water pots. So that first water pot on the front side by the bathroom, that's where the snake was. But fast forward, a quick story. I could stay here all evening. So this is the back of the house. 2 quick stories. So one day we had worship, and we came back, and one of the cats had half-eaten a frog and left it there, and Elisa was like, ugh, this is so gross. And then she went into the bathroom, and she's terrified of spiders. And there was a spider, no exaggeration about the size, and it was in the bathroom. And then it started chasing her, so she ran out screaming, and she got her father, and he went in the bathroom, because I'm there thinking she's exaggerating, you know? And he was like, no, the thing was literally chasing her, so he killed it. And so she had, like, her senses, like, really heightened, right? And then she said she heard the cat hiss. And she was like, huh, that's strange. And then she heard it hiss again. And she was like, okay, if it hits a third time, I'll go out and look. And so when she went out and looked, the third time, there was a Malayan viper, not the green, but a viper that was under the steps. Anyways, just say after that, I never went through the back door after night. Once the sun set at 6:30, I did not go that direction at all. So that's one story. And then the next one is one day, her and her dad was, I think it was a grinder, they had, or a drill. They were doing some kind of electrical work, and they were working. And I was in the kitchen making coconut oil, because you can get fresh coconut milk. That's so good. Anyways, I digress. And so I couldn't go through this door, so I went around to the front door. And when I went out there, you know, sometimes you do stuff that's just not rational, and you don't even realize how irrational it is until after. So I'm walking up, and I see smoke. The smoke is coming this way from the house, but I'm looking that way, like wondering, where is the smoke coming from entering my house, you know? And so I'm like, where is that? And then all of a sudden I look, and the whole wall is on fire. I live in a grass house. Not only do I live in a grass house, I have on the roof, I have cloth. So like the beams like this, there's a piece of cloth running the full 12 meters across, which is probably a little over 36 feet, right? And we have that because the termites were eaten into the wood, and it literally rained on us. So you sit there and you just see dust just falling all over you at any given point. So that cloth was a barrier. So we have the cloth, we have the grass, and the house is on fire. And I remember screaming, "The house is burning!" And I ran inside, and I got water. I don't remember how I got water, but I got water. And then Elisa, remember from Laura Ingalls, when one of the books, when there was a fire and how they got cloth and was beating it, and I just did laundry, and she picked up, I had nightgowns, I had house clothes, and she picked up one of my church skirts and was beating the fire. And she's like, I'm like, "That's my good skirt." She was like, "Well, it put the fire out." Anyways, so the fire was put out, but I just saw God's hands, because I don't even know why I went inside the house, but had I not gone in there, it would have been completely destroyed, because that would not have taken long to burn at all. So this is our property. It's 30 acres. So you see this clear piece over here, the 2-piece clear piece, and then the green piece next to it on that side. So it's all of that going all the way over to the water there and to the back. And the plan is to build, originally it was supposed to be building a boarding academy, because we have a few elementary school, but not many boarding high school for our kids to go to. So when they finish elementary, they normally end up in government schools. Because I think we only have 3 high schools, and one of them is really expensive, and I'm not going to touch that subject. I'm going to just leave it alone. And so I was supposed to be the third high school. And then because I saw all those kids in the village, I'm like, we have to have an elementary school. And so that's how the elementary school came into the picture. But because of the war, there's not a lot of educated people there. And so we needed to send some young people to college, which we did. We had I think we had like 7 young people in college. And the first year was great. The second year, they started having Sabbath issues. And it was so bad that they would have classes on Wednesday. The teacher would miss Wednesday and then say, make up classes on Sabbath. I don't even know why they put me on the schedule for Wednesday. And so we're like, well, if we're starting a school based on what we truly believe, then we can't have that. So what we did was end up taking them out of school, found a school in the Philippines that they could go to, but in order for them to go to, they had to speak English. So that's how we moved onto the property. And so I spent 1.5 years teaching English. I was teaching 8 hours a day, sometimes more, of English. It was some difficult times, but God brought us through. The first 2 months they had translation, and then afterwards I didn't allow translation. They had to work their brain cell so that they could figure it out. So we had 2 vehicles, and when one got stuck, it would take a few weeks before it get unstuck because it was raining so much. And so sometimes it would dry out and you're like, okay, tomorrow I'll be able to move it, and then it rained. And so you spend another few weeks there. That's my kitchen. So it was one building. On one side was the bathroom, on the other side was the kitchen. And that was, for me, we lived in bamboo huts, but I did not want a bamboo bathroom or a bamboo kitchen. I want a brick, something, you know what I mean, where I feel a little bit, or sturdy, or not feel like the wind. I want to be in the bathroom and not just worry about stuff. Okay, so before we had our gazebo built, we're in the process of building. We had classes outside, and those mats that they're sitting on is probably about this thick. But they were eager and ready to learn, so that's what we did. That's another overview. Is it me or is? Oh, okay. That's another view of the property. So this first building here, that was their kitchen. That was the gazebo. We had church and school because we weren't that close to church. So we had everything there. And then if you look in the corner, that was a bamboo hut. That was for our Bible worker. And then when he left, it became the boys' dorm. And then that building was the bathroom. On one side was the girls, and on the other side was the boys. Those two together were the girls. That was the boy. And this was our garden. And the garden was doing really, really good. Really, really good. And then whenever we left, the cows would come. Yep, until we had nothing. And then those were our water pots. And we would have somebody bring water in. And at first I didn't know, but he was bringing water from the river. But it was water. But I didn't drink, I didn't use it to cook. They did, and I was shocked, but they didn't get sick, and I wasn't trying to do that. So I used regular water to cook, but yeah. And so we would fill them up, but when the rainy season started and the water started getting brown from the river, then we got real water then. It was a little bit more, but it was okay because it was clean water, and I felt better about it. And we were close to the river. The river was like maybe less than half a mile from us. And in rainy season, that thing would come up a good 20, 30 feet. That's how much water we have in rainy season. But it would take a lot, not impossible, it would take a lot for us to flood because we weren't that close. So that's the front of the house. And this, I just put this in there randomly. So whenever we had birthdays, we would get cake, and that was their way of playing. They would take off the icing and just chase you around and just rub it on your face, and that was our pleasure. This is kind of an overview of the unreached people group. Can you see that? You see the numbers? 8 billion, 3.4 billion is unreached. That's a lot of work we still have to do. And this is from joshuaproject.net. If you ever go on there, you'll find so much information on the unreached people group of this world. I put this in there because I wanted to show you this. 87% of the world's Hindu, Muslim, Buddhists have relatively little, if any, contact with Christians. Vision of Coca-Cola Company, a can of Coke in the hand of every person in the planet. Look at this. You see that? Can you imagine if we were doing that with the Bible? By any means necessary. There are more people alive today that do not know Christ than at any other time in history. And then this quote, it says, God requires everyone to be a worker in his vineyard. You are to take up the work that has been placed in your charge and do it faithfully. God requires everyone to be a worker in his vineyard. You are to take up the work that has been placed in your charge and do it faithfully. Every true disciple is born into the kingdom of God as a missionary. And oftentimes what we do is we wait for one person to do the work, or one ministry to do the work, or one organization to do the work. But the work is for everyone. And I'm not here appealing for everybody to come to Cambodia. As a matter of fact, I'm not appealing for anyone to come to Cambodia. But what I am appealing is for everyone to work. Wherever God puts you, you know? And because afterwards people's like, everybody can't go to Cambodia. And I was like, I wasn't asking you to go to Cambodia. And God knows how much we complain. You know, I mean, if it's cold, we complain that it's too cold. If it's hot, we complain it's too hot. If it's raining, we complain it's raining too much, right? But God set up the world in such a way that you could pick a climate. If you like it hot, go to the tropics. Is it tropics? No, go to the hot places. Let me say it that way. And if you like it moderate, then you could stay in areas like that. And if you like it cold, you could go. Mongolia needs people. Parts of Alaska need people. There is so much work that needs to be done. You know, you have the Inuit tribes that don't know Jesus at all. You know what I mean? I think, is this another video? I don't even know what this one is. I can't remember. Oh, let me play. I don't hear the volume.
Exploded our vision.
Okay.
Our vision was to establish a boarding academy and maybe an elementary school. And over this last week, he's expanded our vision, actually exploded our vision.
Can you turn it up
to
a little?
A desire to establish 40 elementary schools throughout Cambodia, because there's 130 churches here in Cambodia and only at this point maybe 10 elementary schools. And so there's a huge percentage of our Adventist kids that have no access to an Adventist education system. Now we kind of take an Adventist education for granted in America, but here where they have a Buddhist background, it's very difficult to know how to live a Christian life, and that's where schools come in. They have daily training on Bible and Christian living and how to follow Jesus. We've seen what education can do in Siem Reap because of Tim Maddox's school, 1st through 12th grade there, and the church is literally filled with children. So I asked him, if you take away all the restrictions, how many elementary schools are needed in Cambodia to serve the 130 plus churches and companies here in the country? And he says, 40. And so all of a sudden we started to think different. We were thinking maybe establish one, but 40, that's a whole different ballgame. And so now we started to think, is this possible? Well, I think if we have the right system and the right approach and the right organization, I think it's possible, because with God all things are possible. So we're looking at our vision going from one boarding academy to 40 elementary schools. And then I asked him, well, how many high schools do we need? And he says maybe 10, because after they graduate from the 6th grade, they need a place to go and continue through that special time of growing up where they're starting to learn to make decisions on their own and started making decisions on their own and stuff. And so we're thinking about boarding academies so that people can come from different provinces and come to those boarding academies from all the 40 different elementary schools that are going to be established by faith here in Cambodia. Our original property in Battambang that we've owned for several years, we've been planning on making it a boarding academy. We're now looking at that as being a training center, elementary school, boarding academy, and training center for teachers to go to the other 40 or more elementary schools that God is calling us to establish to serve our Seventh-day Adventist children, because we believe that every Seventh-day Adventist child should have access to Seventh-day Adventist education, and that this is the best way to build the church over the next 10 years, is to educate our kids, to grow up strong, Bible-believing children, to raise their children to be strong men and women of faith. It's a God-sized vision. We are not able to do this on our own, but God can do anything. And now he is establishing 40 new elementary schools throughout Cambodia. Not only is he establishing 40 day schools, he's also establishing evening schools. In addition to that, he's establishing a major boarding academy up in the north, in the Stong Trung area. And so this is going to be a revolution. It's going to build the church up so much. And by his grace, this is moving forward. This is a done deal, because we are absolutely sure that this is his vision, not our vision. This is our chance to make a difference, to step into what God is doing here in Cambodia for the sake of his kingdom before time is completely up.
So it's a huge need. The need is major. You know, I know that we cannot even begin to wrap our minds around that. because we have everything at our fingertip. You know, we can homeschool, we can send them to private school, public school, whatever school we want to. They don't have that option. And even if we were to charge them, they're so poor. Let me tell you, the average tithe per person per year is $35. $35. Their budget for evangelism this year, $0. The budget for the entire Southeast Asia Union, which is Thailand, Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam, I think Myanmar, I'm not 100% sure, $10,000. So when I heard the pastor talk this morning about the budget for here, yeah, y'all have it easy. And so the work is really great. It's a huge need, and for me, I believe that if we're able to reach the children, we'll be able to reach the parents. You know, because the kids are gonna sing, they're gonna talk, they're gonna pray, they're gonna do all these things. You know, the Catholic Church says what? Give me a child till they're 7 and I'll make them Catholic for life. I mean, come on. And we have the truth, but yet still we don't really believe it because we don't invest. You know what I mean? And so I think that this is a good opportunity that's there to increase and build God's kingdom. Do I know what I'm doing? No. Am I lost? Yeah. But you know what? It's God's project. It's not Natalie's project. He just needs somebody willing. And I just have to stop fighting him and like, Lord, here I am. You know what I mean? And when they came in April of last year, we went to meet. It was like a whirlwind trip. He came on a Monday. We met with the president of the union, of the mission that Tuesday afternoon. Then we drove 6 hours to Battambang, visit the property the next day. And then that evening left and drove 4 hours to Tim and spend the day at Tim, then halfway left and drove 4 hours to another province, met the guy in the middle of the night, like 7 o'clock in the night, and proposed an evening school idea to him. And he was like, oh yeah, that would work, right? And then leave there and drove to another place, spend the night, met with them the morning, then drove to another place. We drove 25 hours in 3 days. Just scoping out different places where the need is so great. Like this one area, the pastor said, we have 75 young people right now who would come to school if we had a school. So the need is huge, you know, and God is just looking for whoever and whatever. Am I here asking for money? No, that's God's job, right? I present the idea, his idea of what he wants, and then he'll put it on your heart what to do. He might tell you to go to the mission field. He might tell you to donate. He might tell you to pray. And I'll tell you this, prayer works. Really works. I am a testimony of praying. I'll share 2 stories with you. One of them was with Sherry McEwen. When I was first going to the mission field, I met her, I don't remember the year. Your previous pastor, when I think his youngest child was born. However, yeah. That's how long I've known her. And when she knew I was leaving for the mission field, and right before I left, my phone stopped working. It just stopped working. Like just the week before, it just like completely stopped. I have no idea. And so I'm sitting at the airport. I am stressed. I have 4 young people, 5 young people with me, 5 young people with me. 3 of them, I only know my 2 really. That's it, right? And they're coming with me, and this huge responsibility, and I'm going to a country I don't know anyone, I don't know anything, I don't know what to do. The person I'm supposed to go decided at the last minute that they were going to go to college and didn't tell me, and so I'm going over there, and they're here, and I'm over there, and it was just all this different dynamic that's going on, and in the background, it's COVID, right? And I remember I got to the airport. We flew to New York, and I'm sitting in the airport, and I'm like, I felt so drained. And all of a sudden, my phone rang. Sherry called. And she was like, you know, the Holy Spirit has been putting it on my heart for the last 2 hours to call you. And I kept putting it on the burner and say, oh, in a little bit. And then finally say, call her now. And she called me and prayed with me. And that just kept me going. 2024 was a hard year for me. And that faith camp in Idaho, I spoke. And I remember when I was to speak, normally I write my sermons at the last minute, like early Sabbath morning. But that time I want to be studious. I'm like, I'm going to do this early, you know? And so I was like, okay, what are we going to write about? And God said, share your testimony. I was like, oh no, that's too personal. Absolutely not. And then he went silent. And the next 2 weeks was silence. I have to speak at 2:30. And 12 o'clock, I had one picture. And it's blank. And I'm racking my brain. This never happened. And I'm like, what's going on? So I called my friend. I was like, I have no idea what to write. And people are praying for me. And I called her. I'm like, I don't know. And she was like, why do you think that God is not showing you what to write? And as soon as she said, I was like, oh, I was too stubborn. And I had to apologize to God. And then he gave me. And then that Friday night, I shared my testimony that he wanted me to share. And it was like, it was such a miracle. It was so profound. Like, so many people afterwards came up and say, thank you for saying what I've been thinking and afraid to say, you know, just stuff like that. And I remember this one lady, she came to me and she said, I want you to know I'll be praying for you. And so last summer I saw her and she's like, there has not been a day in the last year that I have not prayed for you. And as I was going through my storm, my husband and I are separated. And I go to faith camp the following year, and people say, you look so much better than you did last year. I was like, look at God. He didn't make me look like what I'm going through. You know what I mean? Because so many people were praying for me. Don't ever think that your prayers are insignificant. Since I've been home, I've been working at the office, the JFA office, and this one lady called, and she's 75, and it's like, hello, and I'm like, this is Natalie, and she thought it was Natalie Woods, and I was like, no, this is Natalie Howell. She was like, Natalie Howell, the Natalie Howell. I was like, yeah. She was like, I want you to know, I've seen all your videos and faith camp, and I've been praying for you. I've never met her. She's never met me, but she's been praying for me. So don't ever think your prayers are insignificant. You may not have money to give. You may not be able to go out there, but you can pray. And you don't know how many people your prayers will be helping as you're praying for them. So each one of us have a work to do. Every one of us. Every one of us, our work, it looks different. But at the end of the day, you know what it is? It's work. You know, and he says, work while it's day, for the night cometh when no man can work. And so I think that's it. I'm trying to rack my brain because there's so much and I can't think of everything. But if you have any questions, just throw them at me. Go ahead, Sherry. Oh my goodness, he sits in your back and he just rides you. I mean, I went there and I came back with a broken family. You know, we're divorcing. But that doesn't change the call. I remember the first time I went in 2020, I came back and they wanted us to speak at Faith Camp. And I'm like, I'm not speaking. I told them, you speak. I'm not speaking. Because all these mission stories that I heard, these grand stories, and people tell these awesome stuff that happened, and I went to the mission field, and I'm like, it's all lies. I came back feeling, I remember in the end, I ended up speaking, and the title was Battered, Bruised, and Broken. And I put a picture up there of a boxer whose face looked so pulverized. His eyes was bloody, lips swollen, and that was how I felt on the inside. And I felt like, what I feel like is that you do have stories, but they're not every day. All we do is just transfer zip code. So if you're not having all these amazing stories every day in your life, I'm just saying over there it's not much different. You see what I'm saying? But you do have those stories, and they're great stories, but it's not, we often make it seem like it's every single day you're having this, and we just, you know what I mean? Like this, in my head, it's an illusion of the true mission feel. And so I remember coming back feeling, I was angry for a while, and I told God I wasn't going back. Because if this is what it is, this is a lie. I don't want no part of it. You know what I mean? And and that year, somebody came and they said, hey, we'll create a matching fund. How much do you need to go back? I'm like, how much? I ain't going back, so it doesn't matter how much I need. and then my husband said, just do the research. And so it was during quarantine. To get in the country, we need $8,000, $2,000 per person for 2 weeks quarantine. Had to have that. And so when I did the calculation, tickets and everything, because when we first went there, the tickets was $500 round trip. When we were coming back home, because they canceled our ticket like 3 times, it was $1,200 one way. The price really haven't dropped much. And so I calculated and I came up to $20,000. But we're not going back, so it don't matter if it's $20,000 or $20, right? So he was like, "Oh, we'll do it. I'll match up to $10,000 for every dollar a person put in." You know how that goes. And I think I shared it one time on Facebook. In 4 weeks, I had $20,000. Yeah, that's what I said too. And then I bought my ticket to go back, and then I just felt like this impression to cancel it. No, not cancel, but change the date. And as soon as I changed the date, my friend Christina said, "How about you send the kids to Mexico?" And I'm like, my family's going to think I'm crazy. This is the middle of COVID. This is 2021. Send them to Mexico. They already think I'm crazy going to Cambodia. And then at that, and I don't have the money. She's like, let God worry about the money. And in 2 days, they came up with $1,200 for both the girls to go to Mexico. So they went to Mexico. We as a family, we had COVID that December. In Mexico, they did the COVID test, and it's the blood one, and they test positive. This is Thursday night, and they're flying out early Friday morning so that they can come back Friday evening so we could do our COVID test Sunday to get the result back on Tuesday to fly out Tuesday to Cambodia, because you have that 48-hour window that you have to do it at. And you know how COVID test is normally free? Because we were traveling and needed a signature and a red stamp, it had to be a red stamp. It was $350 per test. Anyways, God worked it out, and they were able to find somebody who knows somebody who, the Adventist community, and they were able to get the nose thing, and that's how they were able to come back. And then we went there, and I told you about quarantine. And that quarantine, the first quarantine was 2 weeks, and then when that was finished and we're getting ready to leave, the country locked down for 2 more weeks. And then we're getting ready to leave, and they locked down so we're in quarantine for like 5 weeks. Anyways, we were able to move from that hotel to a better one, and so that worked out good. But going to Asia, you literally know that you're on the enemy's territory. You see, here he's masked. Over there, he's not masked. You just see it. You look. And when you look at people, you see the hopelessness in their eyes. I always hear people talk about hopelessness, but when you're looking in somebody's eyes, like really look, and it's just empty. There's just nothing. And I remember my heart was shattered the first time I saw it. And I was sitting in a tuk-tuk. Yeah, tuk-tuk. And the tuk-tuk is the one that have the motorcycle on the front and a thing on the back, and you sit in there. And I remember we almost came eye to eye, and it's like he stared straight through me. And I remember I just started praying for him. Like, God, bring him hope. Help. I don't know the language, but send somebody to help him. And I can just only hope that God heard and answered my prayers. And so even though going there, pay attention to this, even though going there, my family got annihilated, broken, destroyed, the call has not changed. A lot of times when our circumstances change, we feel like God changed, right? And what I realize is that if we believe that God is God, he foresaw. It's not that this is what he wanted. And as a result, he must have made provision. And so I have to trust him even though I don't understand. I mean, there's a lot of I don't knows. But if I believe that he's God and I have to trust him. And I remember last summer, the quote that I held on to the tightest, like the tightest was the one where Sister White said, when we get to heaven and we look back over our life, there's nothing we would do differently. And I was like, God, this hurts so bad. And I remember one day my friend said to me, she said, Natalie, do you believe that all things work together for good? I said, no. And she looked at me because in that moment, I really believe that. When I looked at how destroyed my kids are, and I was like, no. I saw what one of my kids was going through, and I'm like, I don't believe that. That was Monday. That Friday night, she called me and she was like, Mom, I heard the sweetest message. And it was the righteousness by faith message. She stayed up 4 hours researching till 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, yes, all things work together for good. It really, really does. Oh, it really does. Especially in our darkest moments. It works. It really, really works. So have I been going through the ringer? Yes. Is it hard being here? Yes. I don't like being here. People ask me all the time, like, what is Cambodia like? It's my normal, you know? And I was telling someone that when I go back, the smell of the market is really still going to gross me out, and the heat is going to bother me because heat plus menopause is not a good combination, and that the crowdedness of the place is still going to bother me, and all the motorbike and they're crazy. It's going to, but that had become my home for the last 5 years, so I miss it, you know? And God has not released me, so I cannot release myself from the work, even though circumstances has changed. Yep. Did that answer your question? Yeah, so I don't believe in fluffing things up, because then that would be bearing false witness. It's hard. It's really hard. And I remember when my oldest was coming back for school, and I was so devastated. Over there, they don't show emotions. I don't know how to do that. And I remember I was at the airport, and she was leaving, and they had this huge pillar, and I put my, and I'm just bawling. And people are staring at me. I could not care less. That's my baby. And it was that separation where I know that this is it. She's going off, and her journey with me has ended. And in that dark moment, even in that moment, I did not feel that God was releasing me to go with her. And I was like, look, I'm going to do your work, but save them. And so I'm holding on to that. And so I'm not going based on what I see. And it's easy to judge because of what you see. But you see, God works from the inside out, and that's what I'm holding on to. So in the dark moments, I'm holding on to that. In the moments that don't look that dark, I'm still holding on to that. And that's what keeps me going. Any other questions? No questions. I like that. Well, if there's no more questions, we could pray to close. Okay, let's pray. Dear Father, I just thank you so much for loving us. I thank you so much for second chances. I thank you so much for the freedom that you've given us, even though we have not been taking advantage of it. We've taken it for granted. I ask that you'll forgive us. I pray that you will stir in our hearts the desire to go out to seek and to save those that are lost, that we will choose you and choose to make you a priority. I ask that you will forgive us for failing. Forgive us for falling short. Forgive us, Father. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. As I was praying, I remembered one incident that happened. I was driving to Tim. For those of you who know Tim Maddox, he's about 4 hours from me. And my husband was driving, and as we're driving, there was an accident between a minivan, and their minivan don't look like our minivan, but it was a minivan and a motorcycle. And there were two bodies on the ground. And I remember he telling me, don't look. But you know when somebody tell you don't look, that's when you really want to look. And so he had his hands over me, and I'm trying to peek, and then all of a sudden I just heard, listen. And I remember I just stopped. And the next thought was, the chances of them ever hearing about Jesus was 99% chance that they never heard about him. And then the next thought was, how many more have died, is dying, and will die who's never heard of him? And that broke my heart, because I don't know the language enough to share that with them, And so I just hope that God will just put a burning desire in our hearts to go wherever. Because at the end of the day, this world is not our home. We've made it our home, but it really isn't our home. Unless we're trying not to go to heaven, then it's our home. And I remember when I first went there, I was in Cambodia, and one day I was just looking around because there's no Christianity there. Every day of the week is the same. So you can't tell when it's weekends or it isn't weekend. They work 7 days a week. And I remember I was just looking around, and I just felt this huge darkness all around me, just dark. And then all of a sudden, it was like a pinhole, smaller than a pinhole glimpse into what it must have felt like when Jesus came. And that just broke me. And so for me, I just have this passion and desire to go back, even though I don't know what I'm doing, even though I don't see the funds to start building. But that's his problem and his job. And he will equip me, and I have to trust that. That's what he'll do. And so, yep, that's it. Thanks for coming. Until next time. If I come back another time, I will share with you how I got there. And that's a whole nother story, but yes. Have a good evening and a happy week.